Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 228 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, starting off with the owner of MTG Goldfish, Richard. How's it going today, Richard?
Hey, Seth, what's going on?
Not much. Pretty excited, actually. This is kind of a slow news week, but we had pre-release for Modern Horizons. We got shakeups in Modern, so we still have plenty to talk about. But before we get into that, we have a very hot Crim. I heard you're living in 100-degree weather with no AC, Crim. Is that what's up today?
Yeah, I just like living in a sauna. It's cool. It's just the opposite of cool. It's very hot, but it's fine.
I would literally die. It's like probably 75 here in New York, and I got my AC going, so I would die if it was 100 and no AC.
I gotta go get an AC.
Anyway, good to have everyone back. So today, we're mostly going to be Modern focused. We're going to talk a little bit about the release or pre-release of Modern Horizons. Officially, the set doesn't release in paper till Friday, but it's out on Magic Online. Pre-release events happened in paper this weekend, so plenty to talk about there. We also want to talk a bit about Modern and some of the shakeups that are going on in the format already. Even though the set doesn't actually come out until Friday in paper, already seeing some big changes in the Modern meta thanks to Modern Horizons. Maybe some other little topics before we get into Fishmail, but that's our main plan. Modern Horizons and also Modern. So let's jump right into it. And first off, did either of you actually play any Modern Horizons pre-release events this weekend?
This weekend, I did. I technically did not.
That's a strange answer.
Well, okay, so I got my packs and then I left.
Oh, you're one of those people.
But
Grim.
I just wanted my packs because I couldn't resist. I needed to bust open some packs, and because I didn't want to spend like whatever $30 on a Force of Negation. Thought maybe I'd try to open it.
Did you open it?
I didn't open it.
See, now if you played the pre-release and got some prize packs, maybe the Force of Negation was in there.
You're right. But instead, I did get a snow-covered swamp, a Giver of Ruins, and that's about all I care about.
Doesn't every pack have a snow-covered basic? I don't know if that's an
Don't
accomplishment.
take this from me, Seth, okay? And let me enjoy my
planes or something, not the good lands.
I did open also a foil Plague Engineer, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Oh, good foil sideboard card. That's sweet.
Yep.
Richard, what about you? Any MH1 this weekend?
I played a lot of MH1, but in the Modern queues, where it's getting slammed, which we'll talk about soon, but no pre-release. I was too obsessed with playing Modern and couldn't get myself to actually play one of the pre-release events on Moto.
Yeah, well, I kind of did pre-release. I did some pre-release drafts. We streamed some on Thursday for the stream, and also I did one for fun, and I thought the format was fun. I didn't actually play Sealed, which is kind of like the traditional pre-release format, so didn't do the Sealed events, but the draft format seemed really interesting. There's a lot of cool archetypes. There's some really powerful cards. Built some kind of like janky-ish decks, like a Naya lands in the graveyard themed deck. A lot of blue-black decks. For some reason, I tend to just fall into building blue-black draft decks in Limited. I don't even intend to. We forced Ninjas one draft, and it didn't end all that well, but it was still pretty sweet. So I thought it was a pretty fun Limited format. But I was kind of like Richard, though. My main focus was on actual Modern, more so than MH1 Limited, because Modern is definitely undergoing kind of a big shakeup based on Modern Horizons. So, Richard, Modern Horizons in Modern. You spent the weekend playing Modern. What did you see going on in the Modern queues?
All right, so there's a new deck, or maybe an adjustment to an existing deck. Playing everyone's favorite free card, Hogak. So if you forgot about Hogak, we talked about him last week. You basically invoke and delve Hogak out. You can cast from the graveyard. It's an 8/8 trample. And you play Hogak in a Vengevine shell. And there's Bridge from Below, there's Vengevines. Your typical graveyard shenanigans, and then there's the altar of dementia, I believe, which lets you mill. So I've had the privilege of playing against this deck. I've been killed on turn 3 multiple times through scavenging oozes and surgical extractions. There's a top post on Reddit right now where someone who started with the deck, an early pioneer, they have a 79% win rate with this deck. And it can go tall with Hogox, 8/8 trample. It can go wide with Bridge from Below tokens. It can make tons and tons of zombies. And it can also do a combo kill by taking all those tokens and sacking them to mill you out. So that is a deck that's on everyone's radar because it just seems really good. People are saying Rest in Peace is too slow. That's a little troublesome. I have died with many. The traditional Jund graveyard hate does not work with them. Grafdigger's cages don't do anything. Surgicals don't do anything. Scavenging ooze, it's just really difficult. Ley lines might help better. But that's the Hogok deck, which we'll talk about. And then there's some of the other suspects that we thought would show up in Modern, which I've been seeing in the queues. What's the changeling called? I forgot already.
Oh, Unsettled Mariner.
Unsettled Mariner showed up in Humans. I've seen it a couple times. I don't know. Against Jund style decks, it's just another Thalia. I don't really care about it. I've seen Scale Up and Infect. It's really good. If you ever tap out, they just randomly scale up, and you've taken 7 Infect damage out of nowhere. Whereas before, you could play around the Become Immense, and you can count, and you can hold up mana. So that's pretty interesting. I've seen the Canopy lands in every deck imaginable. Those are the decks I've seen floating around Modern. But the Hogok deck is really the disgusting deck because I've been killed on turn 3. I've just played 2 tap lands and then died. So it's a pretty interesting deck, and we'll see how the London Mulligan affects it as well.
Yeah, that deck is very good and very scary. We don't really have a ton of tournament results yet, but they do these challenge events on Magic Online each weekend, and that's kind of one of the higher EV events that they do on a regular basis, and I think Hogok was 8 out of the top 32, and that's especially impressive considering that Thursday afternoon is when Modern Horizons released, and I was trying to get cards to work on videos even on Friday, and some cards were kind of out of stock, so people, not only did they perform well with the Hogok deck, they managed to build this deck in a couple of days. It's so raw and new and untested to some extent. So to see so many different people just absolutely crush the Modern Challenge with the Hogok deck, I don't know. I am definitely very scared of that deck. I personally played against it. I've been working on Blue Black Ninjas, and I literally had triple surgical extraction opener, and I thought I had it made. What else could you want against a Dredge Vengevine style deck? And I lost. I exiled Bridge from Below, I exiled Vengevine, I exiled Bloodghast, and they had a stupid Hogok in hand and just cast horrible grave crawlers or whatever to convoke it out and just beat me with an 8/8 trample. Oh, that deck.
I think if you would have connected maybe with Ink Eyes, you gotta get an Ink Eyes and get the Hogok. In some ways I was unlucky because I was waiting for them to mill a Hogok because I knew they had one in the hand from the first surgical, but they kept whiffing on their surgical extraction. So finally they just never milled one and cast it from hand. And have you played against that deck yet, Krim? Yes, but I call it Hokage just because of anime. And I didn't have a problem with it, but that's because I played Leyline and I had it, so I was very happy.
I think that is the best answer. I have seen my graveyard hate in the deck that I was playing against it was Ravenous Traps and Surgicals, and I don't think that's enough. I don't think that those cards by themselves are a guaranteed win. So I think you really need to be on the Leyline plan. So Leyline value's already going up because of London Mulligan starting in a few weeks, but I think that's where you want to be to fight this Hogok deck is, and But even that's not really a guaranteed win because they're a green-black deck. They have Assassin's Trophies, they have Abrupt Decays. It's not like you play a turn 1 Leyline and they're like, oh, I auto-lose. But it's like, I gotta find my answer. And with London Mulligans, if they know you're bringing Leyline after sideboard, they just mulligan until they hit their Assassin's Trophy. So, we'll see. It might be too good. It might be.
I mean, as I said, I liked Kaya's Guile. So, you know, that card has also helped me though, because I played 2 of those in the main deck of my Esper deck.
Is it fast enough?
What I have been losing to is Mycosynth Lattice, so I mean, I am on another side of the thing where it's like, oh, I need to stop losing to that card. It feels so bad when they just plus card and blow my lands.
It's funny because before Modern Horizons, when I started playing Modern, I ran into nothing but like Azorius control. Like I think in like 2 leagues, I played like 8 Azorius control decks. Post Modern Horizons, I just haven't seen any Azorius control, and you know, small sample size, etc., etc. But it's funny that Krim is complaining. He's like, he's perfectly fine with Hogak, but then Mycosynth Lattice gets you. And that's kind of the story of Modern, right? Is before all these things, like, you can take care of one deck if you go all in, but then some other deck kills you. So then you can't, right? So then you just gotta, you gotta do it the Jund way and just be 45% against everyone.
Or, you know, you just be an extra narrow sideboard. I just go like 4 ceremonious rejections. Cleansing Nova.
You need creatures, Krim. If you have creatures, card doesn't do anything to you.
I have Snapcaster. That's a 2/1. At instant speed, that's value.
Yeah, but the funny thing about this Hogak deck, I was talking to Seth, is it is so fast. Like, against Dredge or against Phoenix, I consider those decks so much slower. Because you can just sit there, they do their stuff, but they can't kill you instantly, so you can untap, wrath the board, clean it up, you know, like take care of things after the fact. But this deck is so resilient and it combo kills. So the minute they go off, it's like it's over, right? So to fight that, I think I'm putting 4 ley lines in my black green deck, and Tarmogoyf will be sad if he's drawn and there's a ley line out, but.
I think we're just taking out the Tarmogoyfs and just putting in ley lines.
I'm just like, Thoughtseize, Leyline, okay, Treetop Village Beats, let's go.
Sometimes, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. It doesn't feel great, but like, maybe that's the answer. I think the deck though is very powerful. Once again, the Hokage deck is very, very powerful. I obviously understand why a lot of people are out there and destroying with this deck. My thing is, like, for those decks that aren't playing white, Hogak is kind of like absurd. For me, it's more of like everything else, like Bloodghast and like.
Yeah. Because you have Path to deal with it. If you're playing like blue-white, then you just have Path. But if you're playing like a red deck or a blue deck and you don't have that, a black deck, it's actually really difficult to kill Hogak. Like Fatal Push, Lightning Bolt, Dismember, Abrade, all the most popular removal outside of Path doesn't really deal with it. And even if you can deal with it somehow, like you have a Terminator or something, it's so easy for them to recast. Especially, it's really the Altar of Dementia that makes the deck so absurd. Like that is the engine card that really makes it scary. Like without that, it would still probably be fine. Like, because Bridgevine has been around for a while. Like, Bridgevine, if you remember, like, this was a deck where people were, like, faithless suiting Bridge from Below's and Vengevine into their graveyard, and they tried to, like, cast Hangerback Walkers for 0 mana so they would die. Like, that was the origins of this Bridgevine deck. But now with Altar of Dementia and Hogak, it is way different. All the janky, like, cast my creatures so they intentionally die cards are gone. You get to replace it with Carrion Feeder and Altar of Dementia, which is, like, insane sack outlets, insane self-mill. And, as Richard mentioned, you have this infinite mill, well, not infinite mill, but mill your opponent's entire deck combo kill. So a lot of the answers that you would otherwise try to use, like Ensnaring Bridge or a Wrath or something, aren't actually all that effective, because if your opponent has Altar going along with Hogak, they can just mill you out on the spot without really ever needing to attack you. Like, they can just win right away on that same turn without passing back.
Yep. I mean, that's why you kind of you can try to go underneath that, because I played a bit of Esper and I also played Infect. And I'll tell you what, it does feel good when you scale up just a little bit, just a little bit. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, I don't have to play the super long fair game and pray that I have my hate, but like, instead I just kill them. And since they don't play, like, at least I haven't played any with Dark Blast, you know what I mean? Like, Blighted Agent just connecting is, problem solved. Like, I don't have to worry about it. I count to 10 and they're done.
Yeah.
That's one way. Blighted Agent, Mutagenic Growth, scale up. Okay, thank you.
What was the problem with this deck?
I have definitely lost to Infect on turn 2 thanks to scale up. Like, I think it actually is one of those decks that kind of goes from, like, second or third tier up maybe an entire tier, because Infect could kill on turn 2 before, but it took like a 4-card combo or something. You'd have like multiple mutagenic growths or like 2 4-damage pumps, but it's like, it's hard for Infect to kill on turn 2 normally. But with scale up, it's a pretty simple like 3-card 1-drop scale up into another 4-damage pump spell, and you just win the game if your opponent doesn't have an answer. So it's much scarier now. Infect is as well. I think that's another one of the decks that seems to have benefited the most from cards from Modern Horizons.
Yeah, it's really good. I thought at first it was just another I forgot the name of the Delve card. What's the big
Become Immense,
Become Immense.
But the thing with Become Immense was never really a problem in fact, and it's because to actually fire off a Become Immense, you need a graveyard, and that means the game has gone on for a while. Which means, as the opponent to the Infect deck, you have kind of like set up your answer and like, it's coming, and you can do things because it's gone long. Whereas scale up, you can just have it at any time. That's the scary thing. And yeah, it's a little scary, and it's just so efficient. Like, they can scale up and then they can hold a Blossoming Defense or whatever. So you need to be very careful. And then there's always just the desperation Hail Mary. Like, imagine a burn spell that does like 75% of your life, right? Like, even if you're losing, you have no protection, you just randomly scale up and hit someone. It could work, right? So it's pretty good. It's a lot better than Become Immense. And yeah, the 1 mana part was the same, but the fact that you don't have to delve anything or set anything up, and you can do it super early, makes it a lot better.
I mean, I just call the deck now just Band Control pretty much, because it's humorous, and on top of that, I get to play Teferi in it, so it hits all the check boxes for me. It plays 3 fairy, plays counter spells and spell pierce.
only Krim.
It's a control
Krim
deck.
finds a way to put Teferi in his Infect deck somehow.
I started at 4, 4 of the 3 mana. Like, if you have that on the board, like, as an Infect deck,
That's actually pretty good. I want to try this.
Like, I'm gonna just take my turn and I'm gonna kill you now.
All right, we'll just give him another couple hours and we'll come up with the Teferi Hogak list for us.
Yeah.
But Teferi Infect is actually pretty interesting.
The white splash also gives you access to some other stuff in the sideboard, but like, yeah, I really like the white splash in Infect, so I'm a huge, and I'm like, Infect is like the last deck I would ever play. It wasn't until I could add Teferi, and then I was like, okay, all right, I accept.
So, looking through the challenge lists, which are really the only lists we have because it says set out in paper, seeing a lot of Force of Negations showing up, like usually a 2 of in control decks. One card I kind of slept on a little bit was Magmatic Sinkhole. The like delve 5 damage removal spell is showing up as like a 2 of in a lot of Jeskai style control decks. And then Ranger Captain of Eos, or Eos, is showing up in humans, also showing up in a new like Esper style Death Shadow deck where you can tutor up your Death Shadows. Also, Krim has Teferis, so
Yes.
Yeah.
This deck's already great.
And then a lot of the lands are showing up in various decks. Also, one that really caught my eye was, the janky red enchantment. Aria of Flame, I think it's called, showing up in Storm as like a backup grape shot win condition, which is kind of hilarious. I was not actually expecting Storm decks to play that, but apparently making your opponent gain 10 life isn't that big of a deal when you can just storm off and proceed to win. So how much of this meta do you think will continue? Like, we're literally 3 days into Modern Horizons on Magic Online, not even out in paper. Like this Hogak deck, the Infect deck, some of the stuff we're talking about, is this the new normal of Modern, or do you think stuff is just going to adjust a week from now, a month from now?
Oh, it'll adjust. It's going to adjust.
Yeah, it will adjust because like these Hogak decks will start facing the mirrors. So they're going to have to adjust their deck to try to like edge out each other in the mirror, and then they'll probably be worse against other decks, and I don't know, something will happen, but I don't know that like after the adjustment we'll have anything remotely close to fair, because the Hogak deck it's just so good on so many different dimensions, right? Like it goes tall, it goes wide, it does combo, so it can judge you out too, right? Like so I don't know, but we'll see how it goes.
I definitely think it has a much more legitimate beatdown plan than most Dredge style decks. Like, usually the downside of Dredge, if you ever have seen Dredge with like a ley lane out, they're like casting 1 power 3 mana creatures or something. Like, their deck is so bad they can't even cast like their prize amalgams. It's like really bad if their graveyard gets shuts down. But and while it's not ideal to have that happen against your Hogak deck, like casting a bunch of grave crawlers and Bloodghast, like that's actually a way you can win some games without your graveyard. You're playing like 2 power creatures for 1 mana instead of 1 powered creatures for 3 mana. So I think having a backup plan that actually can sometimes win through graveyard hate is another big reason that deck is pretty frightening. So any other modern observations or Modern Horizon observations before we move on to other topics?
Teferi's Puzzle Box is back.
I noticed that spiked a lot. It seems like people were playing like Days Undoing to combo with Narset, and then they're like, oh, we can just like do that every turn with Teferi's Puzzle Box. Why don't I just have one of those every turn?
Yeah, I have my white bordered like Russian one, so it's great. It's not even in English. And
what have you guys been playing in Modern with new Modern Horizons cards? We've heard a little bit, but what were you playing this weekend, Richard? Were you just junding people out still?
Green black.
Any new cards?
Drop the red.
Strangleroot Geist. So I don't know. I got to change this deck now. This deck was made to prey on control, but I don't play control anymore. But I really wanted Strangleroot Geist, and Treetop Village for all the Planeswalkers, and then Scavenging Ooze and Kalitas for all the unfair decks. But those cards do nothing against Hogak. So I'm like, oh, this isn't going to work anymore. So I'm going to have to put in 4 ley lines for this. But I don't know, maybe I'll just join the Hogak. Like, that's basically Jund.
I mean, it is, right?
You know what's better than Tarmogoyf? Like a 1-mana 8/8 trample. So, yeah, right.
Speaking of Tarmogoyf, someone sent me a 5-0 list, and the lists aren't published yet, but it's like a Sultai Snow mid-range deck. I don't know if you've seen that yet. It looks...
What is Sultai Snow? What is this?
It looks pretty sweet, but you're playing like the 1-mana Prophetic Prism thing, Icefang Kodal, Dead of Winter as a scalable sweeper for your deck, and then along with like Snow basic lands to power that stuff up. But otherwise it's like Liliana's, Tarmogoyf's, Tireless Trackers, Assassin's Trophies, kind of like very typical Jund style stuff. So that looked kind of interesting.
What's the blue for?
Snapcasters, Icefang Kodals, and some sideboard counter spells.
Yeah, I never liked Sultai because it hurts me to take up Liliana when I'm holding counter spells. So I'm like, I don't know, this like so much anti-synergy. I don't know what's going on here.
You just don't play that many. You only play Cryptic, because that's not just a counter spell. It's also triple blue, but whatever.
Triple blue, don't worry.
Yeah, it's fine.
So sticking with Modern for a minute before we move on, we have the London Mulligan rules starting a little less than a month now, like 3-ish weeks. It'll be live everywhere. what are y'all thinking about bannings? Like, we've been talking about this Hogik deck, which seems really busted after 3 days of it being in the format, but we'll see what happens as it goes along. Are you expecting there to be a lot of bannings with a combination of Modern Horizons and the London Mulligan rule change?
I don't think
something will get banned, I think. Maybe not from Hogak, but I think with the London Mulligan and once Modern readjusts, I think we'll get new banning.
Tarmogoyf gets banned.
Oh my god. Let me save your soul. Let's prevent people from playing this bad card by just banning from the
Yeah, I think
format.
it's already, like, shadow banned, because no one plays it anymore.
Snapcaster gets banned. What? Why? I don't know. I don't see anything getting banned. Not
They
yet.
didn't ban Agent Stirrings. Are they really gonna ban everything? Like,
Yeah, or Faithless Looting. So, I think they're gonna wait a little bit longer. They want to see probably what it's gonna look like after the Mulligan.
I mean,
too.
well, yeah. I think that makes sense. There's a Pro Tour coming up shortly after the Mulligan rule change, which is also going to be Modern, and I believe Modern Horizons Limited, which is cool. So I don't think there'll be any major changes before that, but we'll see what the metagame looks like coming out of that. I definitely think that there is a higher probability of, like, multiple bannings now with the new set and the new Mulligan rule than there were a month ago when we didn't have Modern Horizons and had the old Mulligan rule. But I think waiting till after the Pro Tour, probably most likely. I'm pretty, like, legitimately scared of, like, the Hogik deck at the Pro Tour. Like, it is very early, but I definitely could see that being a really popular deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be popular. Yeah, but I also think that because it's so new, the meta hasn't adjusted yet.
but it also means the deck can get better too.
It can.
This is like the untuned version. Wait till you see it in its final form.
So, I mean,
The Hokage.
really, Hogik, I think, is on, like, the watch list, even though it is very early. I think Karn is on there. I actually think, like, just the number of different decks that are playing the Karn Mycosynth Lattice combo, I don't know if that's necessarily, like, do you want that to be the best thing for any ramp deck to do? Because that's, like, kind of where we're heading, is, like, if you are ramping at all, like, your game plan should be to play Karn and get Mycosynth Lattice and lock your opponent out of the game. Like, I think Magic is more fun. This is my criticism of, like, Emrakul and Grizzlebrand, too. Like, I think Magic was more interesting when you had to be like, oh, should I try to cheat Inkwell Leviathan into play or Progenitus into play? Like, there wasn't clearly, like, the best thing like, if you're gonna cheat something into play, it's Emrakul or Grizzlebrand, because they're, like, so much better than everything else. I feel like we're kind of getting towards that point with, like, Karn and Mycosynth Lattice, where if you're gonna ramp, like, that's what you should be doing, because locking your opponent out of the game is just strictly better than doing anything else.
They should have added colors, right? Like, the fact that any deck can do this is a bit awkward. But I don't know, like, people will just ramp into the best win con. So when you remove Karn and whatever, you just replace it with the next one, right? And if everyone's using different ones today, tomorrow when they print the next best card at 6 mana, 8 mana, or whatever, people just use that. So is it really going to fix
But at
anything?
least you can theoretically do something when your opponent casts Primeval Titan or whatever. You literally
I guess
can't
it's
tap
the
your
Blood Moon
mana.
aspect where you just get locked out of the game, so it's not very fun.
Yeah, so
Just don't tap out. Totally, right? That's the goal.
Crim has such a different experience. It's like, I got Cryptics, I got Pass, I don't care about this, I don't care about that.
Wait till
Oh, no,
they
I lose
add
to it all the
Cavern of
time.
Souls for Planeswalkers. It's
Straight
coming.
up
You know
lose
it's
to it.
coming. There's going to
Oh,
be a
yeah.
Cavern of Souls for Planeswalkers.
Haven of the Spark or something. Like, yeah, I definitely think that there's been a lot of ramp targets before. I also do not like losing to Mycosynth Lattice, and I do it a bit. So, I don't think they're going to ban it. I think there's way more powerful things for them to ban.
Yeah. Because I think the easy answer is to play creatures.
I mean,
Like if say you're a humans deck and someone tries to Karn you, you're like, oh, okay, whatever. Let me just smash Karn and smash your
Crim
face.
sounded
Right?
so
They're-
displeased by the thought of that. Like, I play creatures.
I mean, it's why I have my other control deck, Bant, Infect. So,
Exactly, like nice Karn. Scale up, you're dead.
Yeah.
So, all right, before we move on, what's one thing from Modern Horizons that you still want to see, or you're still kind of waiting for, that you haven't seen over the first, few days of the format, that you think still might have a chance, but maybe it's going to take people a little bit longer to figure out?
Mox 10.
I mean, okay, I'll go first. What do you guys think about it? So, things that I still really want to see. I really want to see Renin 6. It was really hyped. I saw so many hypothetical Assault Loam style deck lists, and I have not seen anyone actually playing those deck lists on Magic Online. I have not seen a single Renin 6. I also have not seen any Urzas, and there was a lot of hype about Urzas, infinite combos, doing all this crazy stuff. I have not seen a single Urza cast on Magic Online either. So I think for me, those are a couple of cards that I still think people are probably going to figure them out eventually. Ursa is really powerful. I still think Renin 6 is really powerful. But everyone's kind of on the Hogak train now, and everyone knows that deck is good. So it feels like everyone is just heading that direction immediately, and maybe not working as much on those other decks.
I guess.
Oh, I know a card I want to see. Way back, Sarah. The Benevolent.
There was actually a Spirits deck in the top 32 of the Modern Challenge that had a single Sarah. One copy.
Yeah, because you Lingering Souls, you get 4 tokens, and you come in and you make some +1/+1. If we were
it's a little too fair.
From 5 years ago or something, where you could play Abzan, this would be great.
I think that card is way too fair.
It's like Gideon. You just poop out a 4/4 White Angel token.
It's
you pop your Lingering Soul.
It's perfectly
play some Midnight Hauntings or whatever.
It's perfectly on curve between Little Teferi and Big Teferi, Krim. You got to do something at 4 mana.
Oh, I'm just waiting for 4 Fairy. I'm just waiting for that card to come out. Modern Horizons 2. It's gonna happen. I mean, I think for me, I'm still waiting to see more either Yawgmoth, Seasoned Pyromancer. My pet card would be Future Sight, but I know that's not happening, or Astral Drift, so I could just count those 2 out. And I maybe more Kaya's Guile. More of it now.
That's the most Krim answer.
Single-handedly propping up Kaya's Guile.
Kaya's Guile. Kaya's Guile. Kaya's Guile. Also Kaya's Guile.
Yeah, Yawgmoth is really sweet. I didn't realize it goes infinite with, oh no, the 2-drop legend from Amonkhet or something. I can't think of the name of it right now. Batra. Batra plus Yawgmoth just goes infinite, because whenever you put a counter on something, you make a snake, and then you can put a counter on the snake to infinitely enter the battlefield triggers and card draw until you lose all your life totals. So maybe there's something there that people will figure out.
Yeah. That's I think Yogg's a sweet card. Obviously 4 mana, a little scary, but it has to do a lot in Modern right now if it's 4 mana. But Seasoned Pyromancer is another one. Maybe a Mardu Pyromancer deck. Maybe in Jund, who knows? But I think the card is really sweet. So I want to see more of that in Echo Vions. Mostly the Mythics. More of the Mythics.
I just hope a Yawgmoth deck comes out and then an Urza deck comes out, and then that's the Pro Tour finals.
And they're just both really good against the Hokage.
Before we move on, I got to give a shout out to the person who sent me a snapshot of their Morophon Slivertron deck, where they were trotting into Morophon and then casting the first sliver and all the 5-color slivers for free. So I don't think that's gonna show up on the Pro Tour stage, but congratulations for actually pulling that off, because that has to be one of the sweetest things I've seen so far from Modern Horizons.
I mean, how tilted would you be, right? You're oh, they got Tron.
Not
and then instead of a card, you see a Morophon. You're what? And then, the first sliver, you're what?
Yeah, how could you even be mad about that? I just
I wouldn't be mad at all.
It's 3 colorless lands, and you're trying to cast 5-color slivers. What are the odds of that actually working out? But it happened.
There is no plan B, Seth. There is no plan B.
Thoughtsiege your Morophon, Surgical your Morophon, and you're just oh god. All right, so before we get to Fishmail, did you all see the tournament that Red Bull is throwing? I believe it's $200,000 Magic Arena tournament. I don't think we talked about this. It might have been up last week when we did the cast, but we didn't talk about it. What do you think of these outside organizations apparently dumping big money into the Magic esports scene?
Coolest thing. Love it.
Yes.
Untapped. It's actually what Richard talked about at the very beginning when we talked about Magic moving into esports. If like someday some big companies start investing into it, like Red Bull, and I guess that aged well, and whatnot. So this is pretty big. I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We had HP for the Mythic Invitational. Now we have the Red Bull tournament. Next step is like Geico. Like I'm serious, right? Because like Red Bull's been in esports for like a long time, right? So like, okay, yeah, we got them. Next step is to get people that don't traditionally, some of the weirder ones, right? Like, because HP, it's gamer products, it's so obvious. So when companies like Geico and things like that start advertising, you're big, right? And Geico does do a bunch of like esports sponsorships, right?
Yeah.
But they're not immediately associated with esports or like, I don't know, like rocket loans or something like that, right? So that's the next step. We got Red Bull, on to the next. But it's really big news for Magic. If you asked me 3 years ago, would you ever expect to see like a Red Bull tournament? I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
No, it is definitely super awesome. And I mean, I think that's what Wizards was really going for and hoping for, were these outsized companies to step up. And I think it's definitely a huge deal, and it's certainly really good for players. Like, that's just a really high EV tournament that in theory anyone can get into. Like, I know it is a limited number of slots, but there are just random players who are going to be able to be invited to the tournament. So definitely super sweet to see. On the other hand, did y'all check out the MPL at all this weekend? They had like their final week of the first whatever group or something. It was on Friday, and they had like 1,800 viewers or something. It was like a I don't know, Jeff Hoogland stream, a Kenji stream, like, and you have 32 people that you're paying $70,000 a year for to do. Like, what are you thinking about the MPL? Like, where, like, as much as we see these great things with esports, then we have like MPL going from 50,000 viewers to under 2,000 viewers in like 5 weeks, like just decreasing week after week after week. Like, what do we need to do to make that part of this new world of Magic esports and have people actually care about it?
Not pre-recorded.
That's one of my big ones too. I think that is such an odd choice. It's just like against the whole streaming culture. Like, I don't know why you would make that the pre-recorded choice.
Yeah, and also like some people brought this up, and I think it's an interesting point. There's a lot of players that are huge, right? Like they're in the MPL, they're big because they were big on paper, right? Paper Magic and all this other stuff. But people now, a lot of people are also getting in from Arena. So they want to see maybe more bigger like arena streamers and all this other stuff that like that's what some people were talking about online. And I'm like, that's interesting. I don't know if that's true, but it's just because like they like example, like you'll see somebody that just they watch all the time, right? They'd be more inclined to watch that person.
Yeah, it's an interesting point as well. I mean, yeah, because it is like traditionally mostly people that are paper players, although like the MPL does stream now, although the MPL are for the most part not like the biggest streamers or the most watched streamers, but they are consistently streaming. But that is an interesting point that I hadn't really considered, that maybe it's just like, maybe you just gotta split it up. Maybe you keep like paper tournaments for the paper pros and return some more GP coverage or something, and then try to make your arena more like Mythic Invitational style, where you can still have like some MPL people, but also like maybe this isn't pro Magic. Maybe this is like promotional Magic, where you're trying to like have this really cool league to show off Magic Arena and for the people that play Magic Arena, and then keep like pro Magic more or less like kind of pro Magic was before, like, and have it be almost two separate but somewhat related things.
Yeah, but the issue is then like, how do you like, it's like hard to split that up and whatnot. I'd rather just follow, like for me, I don't mind because, but I guess I'm not I watched Paper Magic, right? So I know who these like pros are and all this other stuff. So for me, that's fine. But for someone that's new getting into Magic, it's like, well, who's this?
I think it's too early to panic, right? Because you got to remember where we are. We are at the tail end of a quote-unquote boring standard, right? We have Modern Horizons preview season, plus the pre-release, plus the new Modern, and then NBA Finals, right? So it's understandable that people aren't incredibly hyped. It just maybe too much standard, too much Magic, and people just don't want to watch it. So the interesting thing for me will be when the new standard set releases, what do the MPL numbers look like? But, compared to traditional sports, it's kind of boring because there are no teams, there's no franchises, there's like no history. Like, there's nothing to really cheer for. There's no like die-hard fan who's been there since the beginning when they sucked or whatever, right? Like, it's just like, I don't know, there's a bunch of pros playing. So they got to do something about the storyline as well to make it compelling. To watch.
And I think, and related to that, I think people don't know why this league matters. I think that's a really huge deal. Like, because that's why you watch sports. You want to see, like, your team make it to the championship, or your team that usually sucks make it to the playoffs or whatever, if you're a Bills fan like I am. That's why you want to, but you know what they're playing for. Like, if they get to 10 wins, they're going to make the playoffs. And if they win the playoff game, they go to the next playoff game. With the MPL, like, even from talking to players in the MPL, you get a bye at the next Mythic Championship, but they were like, some of the players were even like, I don't know, like, if this counts towards getting into the MPL next turn. Like, there's these random points, but they haven't told us if they do anything or what they do if they do anything. So I feel like it would be much more compelling if we had, like, the storyline of, like, if you're in the top whatever, you're going to be in again next year, but you get relegated if you're in the bottom. Like, there'd be a lot more meaning. Like, that's why people tune into, like, the last match of Swiss. You're watching these people, like, if you win, you make it to the top 8 and get all this money. Like, all of that drama is kind of missing because no one really knows what the MPL is playing for, like, for the most part. So I feel like if that was laid out more and people knew, like, why the matches mattered and what the, like, winning of the matches did for the players, I think that would make it a lot more compelling as well.
We need merch. We need jerseys for, like, the people or something. I don't know. Like, it's like the difference between watching, like, football at home versus watching football live in the stadium or at a bar, right? Like, you're literally watching the same thing, but there's, like, a different atmosphere, right? And I feel like Magic is missing. There's no, like, cheering. There's no, like, Twitch chat is, like, sub only, and, like, there's no representation, right? Like, when the Bills lose, it's like you lost, right? Like, they're a part of you. Whereas when whoever loses, you're like, whatever, right? Like, what's their deck list again? Like, so we have to find some way to build up that, that connection between the Magic players or teams or whatever, and then the audience. Because currently now it's just like, kind of like a study, right? Oh, what's their deck list? How are they playing? Like, what are the lines? And like, that's kind of it. Whereas I want to, when they mull the 5, I want my heart to sink, have that feeling, right? And we only get that today, kind of like in the top 8 of a Pro Tour, where, we've been following somewhat throughout the tournament, and then now this, the stakes are at the highest. But when we watch every week on MPL, like, we don't get that. So they got to somehow infuse that into the viewing experience.
And I think, like, being pre-recorded kind of hurts that too. Like, I don't have any interest in watching, like, a basketball game that happened 3 days ago. Like, that's not really entertaining to me. I'll just look up the score on ESPN if I'm curious who won. Like, I think being live is a huge part of that. So if there was one suggestion I would make, it would be find a way to, like, have it at least like the feature matches. Even if you can't do all, like, 16 matches live, at least have some live matches each week and have, like, the people on camera. Like, I think having the face cams, like you saw at the Mythic Invitational, where you're actually, like, seeing the players and their reactions and their emotion. That's what was part of what made Mythic Invitational, even though I strongly dislike the format, but that's part of what made it compelling, is you actually got to, like, see the players and get to know the players a little bit, and you don't necessarily get that as much as you could, I don't think, from the MPL so far.
Yeah.
Speaking of formats, they should have had them play Singleton and Pauper on Arena.
Ooh, Momir. Momir Pro Tour.
Yeah,
Momir MPL.
That would be very interesting, right? Like, you can see their high-level play on this casual format, right? And I don't know, just anything from the monotony of standard. Like, we've seen the same standard for, like, how long now? Like, I don't think anyone cares anymore. But, like, pro Singleton lists? Yeah, sign me up, right? Like, pro Momir moments? Sure, right? Why not, right? So...
Pro Momir moments.
You gotta have face cams for that.
Be like, you just gotta get the RNG on your side like the pros do, right?
I mean, and really, like, we should probably move on to Fishmail, but I think that's a challenge that Arena itself has to kind of overcome, since right now it only has standard on the client. So I think that's like this will happen next year theoretically until and if they get to the point where they like start adding modern or start adding other formats and actually start like supporting them with MPL, because Standard isn't always awesome. And like one of the problems with Standard is it just gets old after a while. It's not so much that like Wizards design Standard poorly or anything. They in general there's been great feedback and I think the sets have been great, but after you've been seeing the same like Teferis for 16 months now and you're like looking ahead towards rotation in a few months, you're kind of just like check out to some extent. And you're like no matter how cool or awesome this deck is, I've seen it like 100 times already, so I'm ready for something else. And I think that's a challenge of Arena as a client, with it just focusing so heavily on Standard only. Anyway, Fishmail. Richard, let's answer some questions.
All right. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air. First off, dust on my head. Seth and Krim, would you do an Esper versus Yoink video together? I'd love to see Krim's tears when Teferis get yoinked. No hate, you're my favorite Avenger, right after Aquaman.
Yep, my favorite Avenger, Aquaman.
That could be
fun. Yeah, that like I'm assuming this is like standard, right?
Yeah, I think it would have to be standard.
I mean, yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I mean, I've traditionally found that matchup slightly favorable from the Esper side.
Oh,
so.
all right, never mind.
Moving on. Rufio3030. Hey crew, can we get Omen Machine back on the Against the Odds poll? It's the most Against the Odds Magic card. I need it.
I will get it back out there. I know it's been out there before and it's never won. But I promise you, after we get through Modern Horizons release, I will get it back on the poll.
All right. Carolus Rex 78. With all the talk of banning surrounding the new Mulligan rule, do you think there are any cards that could be unbanned in Modern to help the format, or would they just be too powerful? Hard mode. Stoneforge Mystic can't be an answer.
Aww. Well,
I don't even think it is an answer. Like, what would you do with this? Get your sword of sinew and steel?
Haha!
It's a travesty that
Hogak
Stoneforge is bad.
Still deals trample.
It really is. So, but if I can't answer that, I really think with how Modern is now, and I don't know what other people are going to think about this, but I think like Modern is a point where I would consider cards like Splinter Twin and maybe even Birthing Pod as cards that I just don't know if they're as scary as they were 5 years ago. When you're dying to Grizzlebrands and Hogix on like turn 2, turn 3, is like I play a Birthing Pod on turn 3 and wait to untap with it and try to combo the next turn. Is that even something that like moves the bar in Modern at this point? Is like, oh, my turn 4 Infinite Deceiver Exarchs. Is that even scary compared to like current Modern version of scary, which is like you die on turn 2 to Infect or Hogek or Neoform or whatever?
I definitely think Splinter Twin should come back. I think Stoneforge is fine.
Surprise.
I know. So, yeah, surprise. I think Birthing Pod is also fine. I think the two 4-mana cards that we had just mentioned, Splinter Twin and like Birthing Pod, are just, they're good. They're very good cards, but
Wait,
like
what did you say about
said,
Stoneforge Mystic? Is good or not good?
I think
it's
it
fine.
would be. I don't think it would do anything in Modern. Like maybe I think it would be fringe.
Yeah, so it's good to be
unbanned. It would be
maybe.
safe to be unbanned.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it would not be very
Totally
powerful
safe.
in Modern.
Yeah, I think at this point all fair cards can be unbanned. Like Seth said, I don't know what that Birthing Pod would get you. It's like hard mode combo, right? Like people are playing Vizier combo today already, so I'm like, is this really gonna help? Like those cards were banned in an era where Modern was much more fair, so that made sense, but now we're totally in the unfair category, so these cards don't matter.
I'm actually coming around on the idea with London Mulligan rule that you just like unban everything and then create a new ban list after like 3 months or something. I don't know, maybe everything is wrong because like I know Ayavugan's busted, like I know like Skull Clamp, but I would be happy with unbanning a bunch of cards, like half of the ban list, with the idea that we would kind of create a new ban list after seeing how it shook out for a few months.
Do you think the original Eldrazi list would be good nowadays?
I think it won the no ban list Modern tournament that they did at like SCG Con a few months ago, so I think it would still be pretty good.
Interesting, because I know I don't want to give Tron Ayavugan, but what about just like the old Eldrazi decks? So next up we have Ushikin wins. In Against the Odds this week, you said the record felt like the old days due to 0 wins. Do you think this is because you've gotten better at construction, or because we ask you to play better cards, or something else?
Combo, I think. I think I have gotten better at building decks. I also think, we just played a lot of the jankiest cards already. Like, we played all the, like, you win the game cards and a lot of, like, really hard mode cards in the early days of Against the Odds. So maybe we'll start revisiting some of them eventually, since a bunch of time has passed now. But I think that it's partly also that, yeah, we've just played a lot of, like, the hardest you win the game type cards already, so they don't show up on the poll anymore.
Young Frugal, what if the Netflix show turns out to be a Yu-Gi-Oh style show, where the Planeswalkers that follows are people playing the card game? Instant ruin, or still a potential hit?
If the showmanship is good and like they really ham it up like Yu-Gi-Oh did, sure, I guess I'd watch it.
Yeah, I don't think that would go well.
Yeah.
He's cast as a fairy. What do I do?
Aha, you fool, I had the answer the whole time.
They should make like a YouTube series like that, like, you know, for their YouTube channel or something. But I think that'd be fairly amusing.
Yeah, and then once again, they have to have like the voiceovers that are kind of like really intense and like overly express, like Kaiba's voice.
Yeah,
Yugi boy.
Like April Fool's Day joke would be pretty good. Like, I feel like they should have done this by now. At least just like a one-off episode.
Like, oh yeah, I like Dovin's like voice lines are like perfect for like the TV show, right? Like, think about the voice lines and just hearing like 30 minutes of just voice lines.
Okay, S Barnett 82. So we have Magic the card game, and now we have MTG the animated series. How long before MTG Go? Take a walk and catch yourself a sliver.
I could see Wizards actually trying. So they're usually like, a few years behind like hot trends like that. So we're about due, I think, for MTG Go, like another year or so, and it'll be the time frame.
Wait, is the Harry Potter game out?
Pocket to fairies.
Like, I wonder what this would look like, because you don't catch slivers. But
you
what if
would
walked
catch
around and you
planeswalkers.
Yeah, like, what do you? I don't know. It seems interesting. Have like little goblins and squirrels.
Oh no, I got it. So it used the augmented reality thing, the AR thing, right? And you'd walk around, and I mean, okay, I guess this is kind of breaching people's comfort, but like you would like point the camera at them and help them ignite their spark.
People are gonna get arrested. That's not a good idea.
Yeah, I was like, hold on, this is not a good idea.
What are you doing?
Don't
what
do
are
that.
you doing? Oh no, I'm just igniting your spark. Don't worry about it.
Sorry. Imagine the awkward sorry, and then walking
What
away.
about just like one Flibblethip in the whole world, and everyone has to try to find it?
Oh, like geocaching.
That sounds very, very not fun.
Oh, says the guy who wanted us to ignite stranger sparks.
Yeah, yep. Hey, that kind of works, I guess.
It reminds me. Do you remember, like, way back there was like that PlayStation game where you put a CD in and then you would generate like a monster, and then you would have to like go around finding random CDs to like get the best monster.
I don't think I ever played that one.
Yeah.
You never played this?
What is that like? I know that's not Yo Rap. What is it? Yo Parampa Rappa? I can't remember.
No. Parappa was like a
Is a dance
like a
game.
rhythm game.
Yeah, rhythm.
This was
game.
like a Pokemon type game where the way you generated your monsters was getting like random
Monster
like, any CD.
Rancher.
Like, it could be a music CD, a game CD, and it would like get some hash of it or something, and then make a monster for you.
Wait, what wasn't that Monster Rancher? No, that's not Monster Rancher. No, wait, it was Monster Rancher, right?
I have no idea what it's called, but that would be cool. You just walk around, and you have to find the right person to ignite their spark.
So we still like the idea of knighting people's sparks.
Sorry, your
Sparks.
potential's too low. Sorry, mistake. Let me go on to the next person.
Not only did you insult them, but you also.
Sorry, I can't use you to fight the Phyrexians. You're moving on.
Yeah. I don't even know what the end game of all these sparks being ignited does, by the way, in the game. It's not like, like there's a gym, right? Like,
Well, Emrakul is coming. You gotta be ready.
yeah.
Alright, accordingly 23. With 11 Mulligan and Modern Horizons coming, there has been a discussion of fair versus unfair decks. I've heard players refer to Modern Storm as unfair, but Modern Burn as fair. If unopposed, both are turn 3 decks. What's the difference?
The people that call Burn fair are just wrong. That's my answer. I consider Burn an unfair deck. Burn is basically a combo deck, in my opinion.
I would call it a fair
very slow
combo.
deck, though. Like, I don't think it's a combo deck. I think it's a fair deck.
Richard
So we don't even agree here. How are we going to answer
Richard
the question
doesn't think anything except Hogek is unfair at this point. He's like, Dredge is fair because it's not Hogek.
Well, here's my combo, Seth. Turn 1 Tarmogoyf, turn 2... or turn 1 Thoughtseizes, turn 2 Tarmogoyf, turn 3 Liliana, and then I win on turn 5. Like, that's a combo, right? But it's slow and incremental. Whereas traditionally when we think combo decks, they kind of just kill you all in one shot. Whereas Burn has to kill you over multiple turns. But yes, it's like a 7-card combo that you're trying to assemble. But 3 Thoughtseizes, a Tarmogoyf, and a Bob are a combo.
What is
right?
the definition of fair and unfair then? Like, what do you think of when you hear unfair deck or fair deck? Like, how do you define it?
Oh, this is going to be like opening Pandora's box.
So is Jace fair?
Yes. Yes, that is fair magic.
It definitely feels unfair when I play against them, though.
Well, that's the
think
same
it's
as like
something like-
Bloodbraid into Lily. That feels unfair, right?
Yeah. If you can interact with it with the traditional way, and the traditional way is, I think, removal.
Okay. So if you're beating down with
that right?
creatures, basically, like if you're attacking with creatures
Yeah,
and
if you
that's how
have
you're
creatures
winning.
and removal, that's good, wholesome magic. And if you're doing... Maybe if you win by combat damage. If you're winning by combat damage, that's fair. Anything that's not is unfair. Or
So,
combat like incremental combat damage, not like a one-shot Emrakul.
That's
Yeah, okay. I mean, but like, what about other things like Planeswalkers and stuff? Is that unfair
Fair, right?
magic?
I mean, okay,
That's not-
yeah.
is Karn Mycosynth Lattice fair?
No.
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 But
That is-
Jay's
that is not
kicking
fair
up for
magic.
like 12 turns. I think
But
Fair
effectively,
magic.
they're the same. You're not winning if they've brainstormed 4 times.
yeah, but you can like deceive yourself into thinking you have a chance. When with Karn, you know right away.
Isn't that worse? I guess that might just be strictly a way more terrifying feeling. Like, oh, hey, I think I have it. Oh, no, wait, I'm just getting fate sealed, or they brainstormed me like 32 times in this game.
Yeah. Well, is Infect fair or unfair?
Unfair.
I would say an unfair deck.
Because they kill you over the course of multiple turns with combat damage.
I think for me it's speed. I think like maybe that's not even like
It's an aggro deck.
So is 8 whack unfair then? I kill you on
Ugh.
turn 3 with goblins. Right?
yeah.
But then you
Man, this is harder than I
This is
realized.
hard.
Because, like, Splinter Twin, I
Yeah.
think, is a fair deck, honestly. Like, it wins with an infinite combo, but if you look at an actual, like, twin deck, it's like a fair control deck. Like, that just happens to be how it finishes the game, but it's not any different than, like, playing Is It Control and then winning with Jace. Like, I think that's, like, a fair deck, even though it has an infinite combo that wins the game. When, yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, also, how many times are you just going turn 4, attach the Splinter Twin to my Exarch into open mana? Like, I mean, yes, you can, but I feel like that usually doesn't work out. And because you can interact with the combo.
So we have
Yep.
no answer.
You stumped
Yep.
us.
It's whatever Magic players want to complain
Except
about.
Burn. Burn is unfair.
I think Burn is fair.
Burn is
I think Burn
fair.
is fair. But I guess we're wrong, Richard, according to
Well, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying
No.
it's fair.
I think it's fair. I genuinely think it's fair. I dislike it, but it's fair.
Yep. All right. Last question. Semper Nemo. When are you going to launch Gundam Out, the series where Richard goes 2-3 in modern leagues playing Goth Boys? I watch that every week. I've thought about this, actually, but I figured it's a fun meme, but you guys would not actually watch it. Like,
After episode 2.
we're like, all right, it's turn 2 Tarmogoyf. Okay, pass. Okay, they just milled us out. On to the next game.
Maybe once a set release, there's an episode showing off any new
Yeah,
additions.
maybe like every quarter
Does
we
this
attempt Jund again.
Yeah, you can just, and the cover, like the art on it, the thumbnail art can just be the is this blank meme, but with Richard on it. Is Jun tier 1?
No, it's really, the thumbnail will be Tarmogoyf getting killed by a different monster every thumbnail. First Death Shadow, then Hogak, then like Gurmag Angler, then whatever one mana 2020 they want to print next set, right? Like. All right, that's all our fish mail for this week. Thank you to everyone who sent them in. If you have questions in the future, you can send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail.
And I think that brings us to the end of episode 228 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So, Richard Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. We will be back next week with exciting stuff. It'll be the start of M20 spoiler season. So we should have some new cards to talk about, at least a few. So, yeah, that'll be fun. New cards coming. Until then, y'all have a wonderful week. And this is the crew signing out.